So good evening to the residents of Sando West, members, supporters, the campaign team, the governance team, candidates of the National Transformation Alliance, members of the media. I am pleased to be here. We have several offices throughout Trinidad for this upcoming general election. One is Sando West, and there's an obvious reason for this. This is a strategic battleground for a general election. As always, this is one of the key marginal seats, along with St. Joseph, of which I am the candidate. And based on that, we were very selective in the seats we decided to participate in, whereas in other political parties, they can go up for 41 seats because they have over $100 million that they have in their campaign financing. And the reason for that has to be something that I've been asking for years. What happens is that many of the funds that go to these political parties, it is based on persons who got major contracts when you're in government or in opposition, and it is big payback or hold this to remember me if and when you get into government. And I think that is really unfortunate. But ethics, I think not. I think we need to try to change that, and that makes it very difficult for so-called third parties to participate in. Having said that, I do thank each and every one of you all for being here this evening. I know it is very difficult. Sometimes persons, they're threatened with their jobs. In fact, we lost 2 candidates because they were actually told by individuals of their employers and even their family members, you cannot go up because of our affiliation to certain political parties. Thankfully, we have a very good candidate here, a very good soldier, Dr. Kevin Saran. I think he will do an excellent job going up in this seat for Sando West. This election, it is all about choices, and the choices you have to select. People have asked me how it is that we don't say much about the PNM, so let me clarify it here immediately. In 1986, I think the PNM, they would have been at their worst. There was 3-3, and PNM still acquired 188,000 odd votes. In 2010, PNM at its worst again, 29-12, they got almost 300,000 votes. After 10 years of us understanding it has been obviously the worst government the country has ever seen. You think what we're going to say now is going to change the minds of some people? So there's that 300,000 at PNM till they die, and that's not changing. We will probably get a few that may come across and join the NTA or a third political party. But the bulk of persons who represent and support that bridge constituency, that third party, those independent voters, those floating voters, independent thinkers, that 350,000, and those persons decide outside of the PNM. So the option here is really and truly for that 350,000, we're going to vote for the UNC or the NTA. And we have to show to the country that we are the viable option, and also to show to the country why it's not. Testing 1, 2. And again, we could go back to that 350,000. We have to, in 2007, the Congress of the People acquired 148,000 votes. And that was just about 18 years ago. It is really comical to hear Prakash Ramadar state that the Congress of the People is the third major political party. The last time that the COP took part in a general election, they got 467 votes. So from 148,000, they moved to 467. And it has reached that point where the Congress of the People has even been demoted from even being in relevance to the coalition of Kamala's interest, where they have actually acquired 2 seats in comparison to Philip Alexander's 3 with the PEP. The PEP, by the way, is a political party that has lost every single deposit in every election they have taken part in. The NTA, we are proud to say we have, in every election we have taken part in, 100% of our deposits we got back, all 31 seats. And those were the 31 seats that were the hardest PNM seats. We were able to cut the gap from 33 to about 80 or 90% in every single of the safest PNM seats. So we earned our spot here to be recognized as the de facto third party, the major party, the party that can actually cut inroads into the PNM and the UNC. The UNC, as I said, they try to corral as many of these third parties as possible because the data has shown that in the 36 years of the existence of the UNC, they have never won any election on their own when a third party is involved. So, and the same thing is going to happen here. What we would not have done is to have a repeat of what took place in 2010 to 2015, whereby the Congress of the People, it was what I refer to as political domestic violence. Once a certain party will get 21 seats, they saw no need for the COP, and that caused a party to move from 148,000 to 467. We have to make sure that there will never be a repeat of the Rishmis, the live sport, the Color Me Orange, the Hoop of Life, removing people like Dwayne Gibbs and bringing in a Stephen Williams. We have to make sure you make that choice. And that's why I would like to speak today more about policies, because that is the decision you need to make. We are here to try to grasp the attention of those independent voters, those floating voters, those persons who are going to analyze and see for themselves which political party is to go in there, provide me with my most fundamental rights, the benefits that I am entitled to. Because we as politicians, we work for the citizens of this country. And I'll give you simple examples about policies. Sport. You notice you'd have never heard anything from these two major political parties about sport on a major general election campaign. They see sport as an extracurricular activity. They have never put sport as a prime activity. The only time it was ever done was live sport. And we saw what happened there. $400 million pumped and wasted, given primarily to criminal elements that had a byproduct of over 40 lives being lost. But if we use those funds in the right manner to have assisted the development of sport, it could have done so much towards the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Because, as I mentioned, when I was Commissioner of Police, we had the Commissioner's Cup. We were able to take different communities and bridge the gap in the communities where actually gang leaders were actually seeing their children playing a sport for their community against another gang leader, and the gang leader watching the gang leader, and all of a sudden sport became a catalyst towards uniting communities. Let them have their battle on the football field. Let us understand that it is a sport, but we can burn our energies in that manner. That is known as something called secondary crime prevention. Primary crime prevention is hard targeting, deterrence, taking away the product of opportunity. Tertiary crime prevention involves the criminal justice system. Secondary crime prevention, that involves finding avenues to turn persons away from a life of crime, be it education, better health, better training, and extracurricular activities. Young persons need to burn their energies. And we have never, as I said, no government has ever been able to utilize the importance of sport towards development of Trinidad and Tobago. So they will speak about hospitals, they will speak about roads, bridges, national security, never about sport. So this is just one of the policies I intend to mention to show that unlike other political parties, we intend for the first time to turn the Ministry of Sport into a core ministry and not a secondary ministry or just by the way. And all our national teams have been affected tremendously over the last few decades, whereby other countries will have that development program. My son, in fact, he was on the national under-17 team about 5 years ago. And they took part in the World Cup qualifiers. And out of the 23 players that were selected, Stern John and Kenwin Jones were the coaches, only 3 of them still play football. They have just gone on the wayside. Other countries, the Costa Rica, the Panamas, the United States, your under-17 immediately becomes the under-19, immediately becomes the under-21, immediately becomes the under-23. Keep them as a unit. All our national teams, they just assemble them a few months before a tournament. If and when they lose, they get knocked out because they're never able to get in the top 4 or so forth in CONCACAF to qualify for the World Cup, and you disband them. That has destroyed our national teams. But if and when they succeed, you have all of the motorcades and naming aircraft after you and all of that. Our national sportsmen and sportswomen do not need the praise after. They need the support now. And the importance of that is it is not just about winning gold medals and qualifying for World Cup. It has to do with the development of sport as an avenue to build and turn young persons away from a life of crime, but also to help develop them into being a better young man or young woman. Sport, being in a team sport, for example, you get the character traits of uniformity, punctuality, teamwork, leadership, not giving up, strategy, tactics. All of these different things assist in building the character trait of a young man or woman. And we have never seen that as an important for sport. I recall when I was at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. Now that is supposed to be a military academy trained for you to fight wars and battles. I thought that was what it was about. You know, it was about leadership. And 25% of the time I spent at Sandhurst was about sport. And it showed the importance of a military academy understanding sport because it involves that teamwork, that discipline, that camaraderie. And it assisted me in my own development. I was the captain of my company hockey team, football team, cricket team. I played first 11 for Sandhurst. And If it is that we can get young persons, every young person, to play a sport, you may not become a national sports player, you may not become world class, but it will help develop you. And that's why I think what we intend to do is to do everything possible to try to get sport to be a core curricular activity. And there's again 161 odd candidates that are taking part in this general election. I know the 82 candidates from the PNM or the UNC. I don't think any of them ever kicked a line, so they don't really understand the value. So if one of them gets back into government solely, we're going to have the same situation, the same avenue of us bypassing sport and not using it in the proper manner that it should, which is to develop young men and women and to develop a country. I would like to clarify a situation about policy pilferage, and it has to do with honesty. You hear political parties, they will be here to boast about the things they intend to achieve. Over the last few weeks, one political party, they've boasted about having a Ministry of Defense, a Ministry of Home Affairs, a Ministry of Justice, $1,000 for officers, $1 million for the family of persons killed in the line of duty, a community comfort patrol, making firearms accessible. Every single thing that Kams has spoken about is what she got from me, every single thing. And what is sad is when I said it, she had the audacity to say it was not true. I made a request. I said, if it is you say it's not true, I am asking you to please give me the clearance to be able to reveal the emails. You have not replied. So I am calling you out, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, that you're a liar. Because it's right here. What is this here? Email dated Tuesday, the 11th of May, 2010. Kamala to Gary Griffith and Ernie Ross. Please liaise with Ernie immediately to get this out. Let me see the newspaper supplement draft before. I have the document that was also sent. What's this? Again, in May 2010, the restructuring of national security into the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Home Affairs. So I did all the draft for the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and that's why she cannot speak about how you can set and structure the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Home Affairs, because it came here. So if it is you want to steal, at least have the honesty to say, look, I agree, I took it from Gary Griffith, but I intend to implement it. But you can't implement it. You see, knowing what to do and how to implement something are two totally different things. But don't you dare accuse me of being a liar when you are the liar. Because the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Justice, the $1,000 being given to every single member of the protective services, all of this was drafted. I have all the documents sent to you just prior to 2010. The $1 million for persons killed in the line of duty, this was drafted by myself and sent as a cabinet note to allow it to happen. The GPS bracelets, when I drafted it, she kept doing this in 2010, saying, and we'll put in GPS bracelets, and I had to explain to her, GPS bracelets for persons who have been sentenced, it's on your ankles, stop using your wrists, it's not that type of bracelet. She didn't even know, and she kept doing this in 2010. We are going to give GPS bracelets for persons who will be given probation. The Community Comfort Patrol, the Diamond vessels that we were able to get for half the price of the OPVs, the Rapid Response Unit, the Emergency Response Patrol, the National Operations Center, the National Security Special Operation Group, the National Security Training Academy. Every single thing that they boast about, it is done through here. And it's not me, it was a team. And that is what I continue to do. I need a team. I try to build a team. It is unfortunate that certain political parties don't understand the importance of a proper team. They want yes people around them. I give you the assurance, I do not want yes people around me, because when you have yes people around you, you make mistakes. You can't afford to make mistakes as a prime minister, because that affects a country. What we need is to ensure that you have the best persons available, the best persons around you. I am prepared to be the dumbest person in the room on any specific matter if that is going to help develop my team, make it more productive, and to develop a country. Prime ministers and leaders must understand that. When it is you just have these yes people around you, if you bring the yes people, you will have persons who you have never heard about. You have people who will probably say carry a purse behind you for 5 years and they become members of parliament. I want people with track record. I want people with the capability, the qualification, the expertise, the training, the capability, the leadership skill to transform Trinidad and Tobago. Putting yes people around you is not going to cut it. So when it is, again, if it is that you do not have the capability of qualified persons to give you the policies that are required, and you intend to piggyback from others, at least have the common courtesy, the dignity, and the honesty to admit where you got it from. I now want to move on to about bribery. So just short lines, I want certain one words. This is about bribery. This election is one that is getting very, very interesting. This same San Fernando West, a political party was paying $350 to hundreds of persons in HDC to plead with them not to come and vote. When it is you start having situations like that, you're trying to bribe persons so that you can win an election, and you expect to have the ethics and the right to be in government. This same political party has now been giving away refrigerators and stoves in San Fernando West in the hope that you can bribe people to vote for you. They did the same thing in La Joquita, Talparo in the 2020 general election. You gave away 600 refrigerators and stoves and still lost a marginal by 2,000 votes. Do not question and undermine the intelligence of citizens of this country. But you're coming here and doing the same nonsense over and over. If you don't have that type of ethics to try to get into government, God knows how they're going to operate when they get in government. Paying people, bribing people not to vote, giving you refrigerators and stoves in the hope that you can get them to vote for you. And you want something like that to come and represent you. So there are people who will continue to steal, they will continue to cheat. Yellow is the code, but we are blue. Unbelievable. But you're even trying to steal colors. We have no intention for plagiarism. We have no intention to copy, because the team that I have around me in the National Transformation Alliance, when it is you see what we will be able to provide, it will show to the country that we have the best policies, principles, people, and the political will to transform Trinidad and Tobago. I want to go us now on to deal with principle, standing on principle. I ask all candidates of the National Transformation Alliance, I want you all to stand on principle. When you stand on principle, you're going to get far. Do not look at that short-term situation. I can boast that I was fired twice by 2 different governments, and I will do the same thing again. I was fired the first time because I was being influenced and pressured to lie in a police investigation to protect somebody. And I said, I'm not doing it. And then they had the audacity to say, well, just say you had amnesia. And I said, no, I'm not going to say I have amnesia. If something, I am going to say exactly what happened. And because I did that, I was fired. How could anybody in their right mind, and you have children, vote for something like that? Because you want to vote for a political party that fired a Minister of National Security who was doing pretty okay because he refused to lie to protect one of your own? That is what they want, that group to hide there and to allow and cover up wrongdoing. I had to fight against my own government for something called live sport. Through the police, the police said, sir, you want us to fight crime, but your own government is giving hundreds of millions to gang leaders to give them contracts that they are using the funds to purchase more sophisticated weapons than us. They have better equipment than us. They are now hiring and contracting rogue police officers to make it difficult for us, and you want us to fight crime. So I was in Parliament showing that live sport must stop because it was a major byproduct and a catalyst towards crime in this country. My own government fought against me in Parliament, saying long live live sport and banging the table. I could stand up and fight against my own government. That is what I want. If something is wrong, do not cover it up. And this is the same political party that when I placed first, I got the highest points, 82% for Commissioner of Police. The Police Service Commissioner that was previously appointed by that political party then decides to say, well, Gary, you came first with 82%, but we're going to place you fourth. That is the type of corruption we have. So because you are appointed by politicians, you decided to listen to them and change me from first to fourth, even though I got more percent than everybody else, beat everybody inside out, including Ula by over 30%. That is what we don't want. That same political party abstained from me being Commissioner of Police. That same political party used one of their senators to take the state to court to make sure I did not continue as a Commissioner of Police, because there are politicians and political parties that have a problem with persons with my standard, where I cannot be bought I am not going to turn a blind eye to corruption, and I'm going to do what is right, even if it affects my own career and my own job. That is what I want. I want us to have persons with that degree of patriotism, that degree of pride, that degree of principle, to stand firm and say, I want to be a politician, I want to serve my country, not what is in it for me, but what is in it for the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. So when people ask, well, the usual thing is why we just don't team up to beat the PNM. I would have problems. I will have problems working with individuals, the same individuals when I was minister, and you will go and give state contracts to gang members to build police stations. I will have a problem working now with certain persons when I was arresting persons. The next day he was there trying to get them released to get back out onto the streets. I will have problems working with individuals who I'm trying to arrest criminal elements, and you there romantically involved with them as well. Because I'm trying to say, well, no, it's a different thing. The lawyer has the right, that's his job. As I said, it's like you're working in an abattoir in the day, but in the night you want to say that you're in a cow petting zoo. It doesn't work that way. There's a saying you cannot be half pregnant. So you have to stand firm. It's either you're right or wrong. You have to know if it is I am dealing with trying to make sure that the scales of justice can be tilted to such an extent it can benefit the law-abiding citizens rather than the criminal elements. And that is what I intend to continue doing. So basically what I would like you to do is to ensure that you are patriots before politicians. I have seen recently there was a situation that has taken place with there's that dragon deal. It was no longer Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee is no longer acting in Enter the Dragon. And the dragon deal has collapsed. And what is amazing is that I am seeing people actually celebrating about this. They are pleased. You know why they are pleased? Because all they are seeing is the value of the politics rather than the value of you, the citizens of this country. To them, it's like, if this went through, it could have affected us politically because it will make the other side look good. And now that it has collapsed, they do not care that it's going to affect our economy. Granted that maybe it is that the administrators put all your eggs in one basket and now we may have to pay the price for it. But the point being is that for you to be ecstatic of the fact that something that could have benefited Trinidad and Tobago, you are happy that it has collapsed. It shows you being a politician before a patriot. So we have to be very careful. And again, as I will always say, come April the 29th, regardless of the result, there's going to be one prime minister, there's going to be one government. What are we going to do? Continue to put us versus them? That is what has divided the country. Politicians have done so much to destroy this country. I recall when I worked with I've worked as a right hand with Basdio Pandey, Patrick Manning, Keith Rowley, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, President Robinson as the military attaché. And I saw the difference in characters, and sometimes I look at the good and bad of all of them to try to mold myself after working with them. And with Basdio Pandey and Patrick Manning, they were political opponents, but they were never enemies, and you saw how they operated. Now we have seen politicians going out of their way to deliberately divide the country by spitting hate, anger, animosity, bitterness, trying to destroy the other. That can't be right. Your job as a politician, to the 16 other candidates, your job is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. We have a point where even a political party hired a social media prostitute to say the nastiest things about citizens in this country. You refer to women with the B word. You call others canal conks and latrine rats. You state that because a PNM member of parliament died in a fire, everybody else in the PNM must burn like them. You start even attacking my wife, who has a medical situation, attacking my children, and people want to vote for that? We must never, ever stoop to the depth like that in the desperate hope for us to want to have power. It is not about power, it is about serving, and that is not what serving is about. Testing, yeah. Likewise, when it is I heard, I think it was when I heard us, a member of parliament speaking and stating that a man raped his wife to make someone, and people praised them for that. I thought it could not get worse, but it has continued. It is hoped that the NTA will be in a position to try to build and unify Trinidad and Tobago, because as I said, the country has been divided. As we go on to manifestos, quick one-word points I want to bring today. Manifesto. everybody's asking, where's our manifesto? So let me tell you something. You all know, understand the meaning of the word manifesto in Trinidad and Tobago's politics. The word manifesto means lies. The word manifesto means empty promises. The word manifesto means I am going to tell you things to try to impress you because it's my box of goodies. I'm Santa Claus. And more hospitals, more roads, more police stations. And all of these things they boast about in the hope that they can fool you into stating, yes, I'll vote for them because they're going to do all of this for me. But you know what? All a manifesto, everything in life and business, you must have income and expenditure. You must have the revenue. They never once say how they're going to get the revenue for all the things they promise you. So what happens is either they lie to the country with all of the promises, and most of the manifesto is never accomplished because when they get into government, they will say, oh, we didn't know the treasury was empty. So the manifesto was a lie to fool you into saying this is what we are going to provide. Or in the manifesto, they realize, look, we have to get it established, but we never stated how we're going to get the funding for it, how we're going to get the revenue. So guess what they turn to? Increasing taxes. So you increase taxes, it becomes a byproduct now that can affect persons. The cost of goods and services can go up. It can be a byproduct to cause unemployment because now if it is, I have to hire 10 persons and taxes go up, I may probably need to hire 8 to do the job of 10 and 2 of you all go home. Unemployment becomes a byproduct again to inflation, which becomes a byproduct towards increased crime. And again, one of the perfect examples is the PSA stating that they are going to start with wage negotiation with the UNC if they get into government at 10%. All well and good. I would love to give everybody 50% if I was Prime Minister. But you have to be logical. When you increase that at 10%, you're speaking about hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars. Where are you getting the income from? If you can't find the income, the revenue to offset that expenditure, what you're going to have is again to find an avenue to increase taxes. When you increase taxes, that becomes all of the things I spoke about. Inflation, increasing costs of goods and services, unemployment, increased crime. This is bad business. The reason I can speak about this when people say, well, Gary was never doesn't have the capability. As a Minister of National Security, I had a $6 billion budget. I never spent a cent over. I was able to have every single thing done in a meticulous manner. And that was the highest budget of any other minister in the People's Partnership government. So if anybody has the capability to know how to balance a budget and to run an administration, is myself. Likewise, as Commissioner of Police, I had a $3 billion budget. The then Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance stated that we in the police service, we were always number one in files, in returns, in balancing, and unlike other arms in the public service, never asked for a cent more. But people say, if I never asked for a cent more, how come we were able to implement so many things in the police service? Easy. Which is the same thing that we need to do to transform Trinidad and Tobago. Cut the fat, cut out the corruption, cut out the bad management, cut out the poor leadership, put systems to measure performance and make people accountable, ensure that there are consequences, ensure that people can be rewarded. That is what we did for the police service. So for example, if I discovered a couple hundred police officers claiming they were working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I was able to cut over $100 million per annum in overtime corruption. And I was able to use those funds to open a police marine branch, to get the National Operations Center, body cameras, tasers, pepper spray, GPS tracking on vehicles, new uniform, new units such as the Gender-Based Violence Unit, the Special Operation Response Team, the Operational Command Center, the Social Media Monitoring Unit. These things can be done without asking for a cent to increase. And with the capability of us doing that, it requires just good management, good leadership, not finding ways to tax people to balance a budget. There's a lot I could say, but I want to close because we made arrangements with not to rain up until the next 15 minutes, so I think I'm running out of time here. I want to make sure that all of you all are also very accessible. One of the biggest issues we have seen in Trinidad and Tobago politics is that they walk and they will walk for the 6 weeks and then immediately after election they disappear. You have to ensure that you have a situation where you can be accessible. You can provide the capability to show that, listen, I am here to serve you. We have lost that. We have lost that capability. I want you all to understand the importance of serving, not leading. And be honest. When you have political leaders come in on the platform, I love you. I love you. Nobody could love you as much as I love you. But you never walked anywhere for the last 20 years as a politician. You walk from your car to a platform, back to your car. But you love people. How you could love the person if you don't know them? Your job as politician, now that is cult behavior, by the way. That's like a Jim Jones thing with the Kool-Aid. Try to, oh, I love you, drink the Kool-Aid. Your job is not to try to fool people. Your job is not to love them. Your job is to serve them. Because you don't know them. Serve people. That is all it requires. Not try to fool them into believing that you love them. Serve people. 31 of the 45 US or 47 odd US presidents had military service. And there was a reason for that. Because it gave us that capability to understand that I am prepared to serve a stranger. I am prepared to take a bullet for that person. So when people speak about patriotism, loyalty, service to country, I have done it. I've spent 17 years in the Defense Force. I was the youngest officer in the attempted coup. I was the first Trinidad and Tobago citizen to return with a United Nations peacekeeping medal. As I said, I have worked as military attaché to 2 prime ministers and a president. I've worked as Defense Force head of intelligence. And I know what it is to serve a country. Being commissioner of police, there were 43 death threats on myself because for the first time a commissioner of police was getting on the ground, leading by example, and prepared to take a bullet. As a leader, you must always be prepared to do every single thing you're asking those under your command to do. That is leadership by example. Get on the ground. You cannot be moving from your car to a platform and then bawling, I love you, I love you, I love you. If you're not prepared to work, and pull up your sleeves, then you're not prepared to lead. I have walked the length and breadth of this country from local government election and even now. I've walked in the hills in Scorpion, in Paramin, in Sealots, in Beetham, Laventille, all in the hills in Arima. And everywhere I go, what I keep hearing is, you are the first person who was a commissioner of police ever up here. You're the first person who was ever a minister of national security we've ever seen here. You're the first political leader we've ever seen up here. And it shows the disrespect, how they discard you, because they believe that I have used you, I am in power now, and I don't need you again. We have to be very careful of the comments that we hear in the media over the next few days. There are certain persons who call themselves political analysts, and every single comment they make is going to be benefiting to one political party. So this is not for me to speak about Dr. Shane Mohammed or Dr. Indira Rampasa. That will all, if West Indies win a test match, they're going to praise the UNC for it. We need to be very careful. Do not be fooled by people who are using something as a political analyst and then trying to impress you. Do not let people influence you. Even myself. What you need to do is to listen and ascertain if these people have the capability to make life better for me. Like, for example, school violence. You're hearing all of these ideas. Ideas is not what is required to transform Trinidad and Tobago. When we had the problem with school violence, as Commissioner of Police, I met the Minister of Education. And we said, what we're going to do? Look for the 30 highest risk schools. Analyze the situation, have undercover officers that even the teachers and the students do not know about. Make sure we have the police app to have an immediate response. Make sure we have the emergency response patrol. Then we had situations such as Crossroads, where we trained 1,000 police officers to be brick brothers or sisters to 1,000 at-risk youths. That is how we were dealing with it. It all collapsed after I left. I'm hearing now a candidate from another party stating that the police do not have technology. That is untrue. The technology we left with the police service is what transformed the police service. When public trust and confidence in the police service was at its lowest, when I took over at 14%, I left it at the highest at 59%. And now it is down to the lowest again with 8%. And that is no fault of the police officers. That has to do with leadership. So the technology we had there is what transformed the police service. It put an end to kidnapping. Kidnapping was the norm in Trinidad and Tobago. We were able to utilize technology and rescue 12 victims, kick down doors and arrest kidnappers and rescue the victims. That has never been seen before in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Putting an end to kidnapping. Technology, we were able to put an end to home invasion. You jump over the wall, you use the police app, the online reporting, you call 999, immediately there will be a response. put an end to home invasion. We put an end to extortion by covert operators, wait for you to come to collect the money, and we take your wicket. These things can be done. The technology we had body cameras, we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle to ensure they stayed in their area of responsibility. What does that do? That was giving you a less than 5-minute response to a distress call. Criminals understood that, so they knew that if you call 999, in less than 5 minutes a vehicle will respond to your door. And that is what the deterrent was. Now we've reached a point, someone will just go by a nightclub opposite the commissioner's residence, shoot someone in his head and walk away, and 45 minutes later, the vehicles will turn up. There's no fault of the officers. We had the technology to deal with social media monitoring, looking at gender-based violence by making sure you had online reporting. So if a woman is beaten or raped, you stay at home and we will come to your home. Not you having that situation, you're beaten and raped or whatever, and you turn up to a police station and the police officer who is badly trained will tell you, well, why you reach home 2 o'clock in the morning? We had qualified persons understanding the sensitivity and confidentiality of that. It lifted the reports and it ensured that there were consequences for the perpetrators. So we had all of these different things to show that we have the capability to transform the police service. If we can transform the police service, we can transform every arm in the public service. And that is what we intend to do. Utilizing again the principle of leadership, accountability, management, and measurement of performance. Trinidad and Tobago, we have endured our darkest hour based on the situation with crime. But the NTA is more than just being able to provide you with your most fundamental right of safety and security. No other political party has the capability than what we have. So you just have to say to yourself, a PNM till a dead. Well, that might very well happen because you're going to vote for a party that doesn't have the capability that what the NTA could provide for you. A born a UNC and I'm going to die a UNC. Their ideas to reduce crime is to piggyback and copy every single thing that Gary Griffith did. We have, and this is not about Gary Griffith alone, we have individuals. You heard Commander Norman Dindayal. This is one of the most qualified persons in the Coast Guard. He had hundreds of millions of dollars in equipment and was involved in major operations all over the world. We have Major Dirk Barnes, one of the best persons in dealing with IT. We have Captain Mark Jardine, one of the most qualified pilots that they had from the Air Guard. We have Paul Nahus, one of the most qualified firearm experts, and several others. And it is not just about national security. We have the same system of qualified people in education, health, the economy, and so forth. So my point before I close is we are not going to give you a manifesto. We are not going to lie to you. We are not going to give you empty promises. What we are going to give you is a roadmap towards the transformation of Trinidad and Tobago. We have seen political parties speak about, we are going to put a ministry of AI. Well, duh, you already have a ministry of digital transformation. But you know, they feel they must come up with new ideas. Another says we have a ministry of efficiency. No, you just need to put systems to measure performance and make every single employee in each ministry accountable to lift their standard of efficiency. Because every time you open a new ministry, it is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars of your taxpayers' dollars. When you look at the size of Trinidad and Tobago, we have more ministries than other countries that are 10 times our size, because everybody needs to be a minister to ensure that the Prime Minister could make you a minister so that you will be able to vote for me in Parliament and there wouldn't be a coup d'etat. Our job is to minimize expense whilst not affecting productivity. So the roadmap towards transformation is to ensure that the present ministries, we will monitor their performance, make them accountable, make sure they're efficient. And by doing that, it is going to lift the standard. And before I close, as I said, if we could have transformed the police service that you all thought was the most corrupt, most inefficient, to being seen as Trinidad and Tobago's finest, you felt safer, we knew what was happening, we knew what we were doing. We could change every arm in the public service to provide the service that you require. Trinidad and Tobago, on April 28th, I ask you all to make that right choice. Make that decision. Do not vote based on blind loyalty. Vote based on what you think can be best for you. I'm a Manchester United fan, but I could tell you one thing. This is one time I'll take a line from another club. I am here with you, and I will always walk with you. So as Liverpool fans will say, you will never walk alone. I'll always be there by your side, being prepared to serve you. If after the 20th of April, I am not selected to serve you, I will continue to find an avenue to provide you with that opportunity. That's what I'm here for, to serve Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.